The storm was going to take them away, but she saved 2 Sioux children and changed her destiny. The sky above the plains of Nova Dakota darkened fast. Red clouds churned like molten metal, and the twin suns disappeared behind thick layers of dust and wind. On this planet, the air was heavy with the scent of ozone and dry soil, a reminder that life here was not gentle. The winds could strip flesh from bone if someone stayed too long in the open. And yet, amid the chaos, a lone figure moved with purpose. She was a woman of middle height, lean and strong, her boots scuffed from years of walking desert canyons and cliff edges. Her name was Mara, though she had earned many names in her life, none of them official. Her dark hair whipped across her face as she adjusted the strap of her gravity harness, a small but vital piece of frontier tech that helped her stay on her feet when the ground beneath became unpredictable. Mara's eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the horizon. Something small and frantic caught her attention, a blur moving in the distance caught in the storm's fury. It was a hover cart, overturned and flailing, tossing up clouds of red dust as it spun, and near it were 2 small figures, a boy and a girl, both no older than 10, struggling against the wind. Their shouts were almost lost in the roar of the storm, but Mara could make out their fear. She didn't hesitate. With a sprint that defied the sand whipping against her face, she reached the canyon's edge. Her boots kicked up dust and small stones, but she ignored the burn in her legs. Her focus was clear. Save the children, or they would be swept away. The wind struck her like a wall as she approached them. Her harness strained, pulling her forward when the gusts threatened to throw her back. She lunged, grabbing the boy first, pulling him close and shielding him with her body. The girl was smaller, lighter, and easier to reach, but the wind seemed determined to take them all. Mara wrapped the girl in her arm, pressing her against her chest. She whispered, barely audible, "Hold on. Don't let go. I've got you." Her voice was calm, even gentle, though her heart pounded in her chest like a war drum. The storm raged, and time seemed to slow. Dust and debris cut at their skin, and the hover carts spun wildly, hitting rocks and tossing sparks into the air. One misstep could send all 3 over the edge of the canyon, tumbling into the jagged rocks below. But Mara moved with a dancer's precision, guiding the children toward a shallow rock overhang where the wind was weaker. Every step required effort, every movement precise. She felt the strain in her arms and legs, but she did not falter. As she carried them, Mara's mind drifted briefly to the past. She had been a child once, running through storms much like this one on Earth. She remembered losing her family in a dust storm, a memory that had haunted her for years, but today was different. Today she had a chance to save lives, to change the path of destiny for these children. The thought gave her strength, a quiet fire in her chest that pushed her forward. Finally, she reached the overhang. She set the children down, checking them quickly for cuts or bruises. The boy's lip was split, and the girl's arm had a shallow scrape, but both were alive. Mara took a deep breath, letting herself feel a small measure of relief. "You're safe now," she said. "Just stay close to me, and we'll get through this." The children nodded, their eyes wide, filled with both fear and gratitude. From the edge of the storm, a figure approached, moving cautiously. It was a Sioux scout, dressed in traditional garments adapted for Nova Dakota's harsh terrain. His cloak was lined with reflective fibers to shield him from the sun, and his boots left careful impressions in the soft dust. He had been tracking the children when the storm hit, and he had witnessed Mara's rescue. His expression was a mixture of suspicion and awe. "You're brave," the scout said, keeping a careful distance. "But this land is not forgiving. Storms like this take everything from the unprepared." Mara looked at him, catching the glint of sunlight, or what little filtered through the dust, on his face. She nodded. "I know, but I couldn't leave them." "You have heart," he said, "but this is only the beginning. The storm takes more than children. It takes futures, lives, and sometimes it changes the path of those who survive." Mara felt a shiver, not from the wind, but from the weight of his words. She knew the storm had already begun to change her own path. The scout gestured toward a safe canyon trail that led back to the Sioux camp. "Come with me. The tribe will want to see you, and they will want to know why you risked your life for our children."
Mara glanced back at the children, who clung to her without speaking.
She nodded. "Lead the way." As they moved toward the trail, the storm began to wane, though clouds still swirled above. The wind lessened, revealing the harsh, rugged beauty of the plains. Jagged rock formations stretched like sentinels, and distant mesas shimmered under the filtered light. Mara looked around, feeling the pulse of this alien land. It was dangerous, yes, but alive, and she felt for the first time in many years a sense of purpose. The children began to relax slightly, trusting her guidance as they followed the Sioux scout. Mara kept a steady pace, her mind alert for any new threats. Small predators adapted to Nova Dakota's environment might be lurking, and the storm may have disoriented more than just the human inhabitants. But Mara had trained for this. Years of survival in desert canyons, navigating unstable terrain, and reading signs of danger gave her an edge others might lack. By the time they reached the camp, the sun was beginning to pierce the dust clouds. Light shimmered off solar sails and crystal panels embedded in the Sioux dwellings, revealing a settlement both high-tech and deeply rooted in tradition. Children laughed nervously as they played near bioluminescent lanterns, and adults moved with purpose, tending to crops and water collection systems. The camp was a mixture of the old world and the new, a reminder that survival required balance. Mara's presence immediately drew attention. The chieftain, a tall man with streaks of silver in his hair and eyes that seemed to see beyond the present, stepped forward. "You risked much," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "Tell me why you brought these children through the storm." Mara met his gaze steadily. "Because I could. Because I know what it's like to lose someone to forces you cannot control. And because I believe I can help you protect them." The chieftain studied her for a long moment, weighing her words against the risks she had taken. Finally, he nodded. "Then you will rest here tonight. Tomorrow, we will speak further. For now, you have earned a place among us, even if only temporarily. But know this, every choice in this land carries weight, and every action ripples farther than one can see." Mara exhaled, tension leaving her shoulders slightly. She had made it through the storm, saved the children, and reached the camp safely. But she knew the chieftain's words were true. This was just the beginning. The storm had not only tested her strength and courage, but had set her on a new path, one intertwined with the lives of the Sioux tribe and the children she had saved. As night fell over the plains, the winds calmed, and a soft, eerie glow from the twin moons bathed the camp. Mara sat beside a small fire, the children nestled close, their faces finally relaxed in sleep. She looked out at the canyon cliffs, feeling the pulse of the land beneath her. The storm had tried to take them away, but it had also brought them together. And in that unity, Mara felt the first stirrings of destiny, an uncertain, thrilling, and dangerous destiny that was now hers to embrace. The morning sun rose over the Nova Dakota plains, painting the jagged mesas in shades of gold and crimson. The wind had calmed, leaving the dust settling slowly across the ground. Mara awoke before dawn, careful not to wake the two children she had saved. They slept near the fire, their small faces peaceful for the first time since the storm. For Mara, it was a rare moment of quiet, a breath of calm in a life that had always been moving, always dangerous. She stood and stretched, feeling the stiffness in her arms and legs from yesterday's exertion. The hover harness that had saved the children was now resting across her shoulder, a reminder of how close they had come to disaster. As she stepped outside the small shelter the Sioux had offered, she was met with the soft hum of early morning activity. Scouts patrolled the edges of the camp, checking for signs of predators or other hazards. Farmers and engineers worked side by side, tending to plants that thrived in the arid soil and adjusting solar panels to catch the morning sun. Technology and tradition blended seamlessly here. The two children stirred, blinking sleep from their eyes. The boy, named Dakota, whispered, "Are we safe now?" Mara smiled gently. "Yes," she said. "For now, you're safe. Stay close to me and we'll make sure nothing catches you by surprise." The girl, Waya, nodded, still holding tightly to the corner of Mara's cloak. The trust they placed in her was humbling, yet it filled Mara with a quiet determination. These children were now her responsibility, and she would not fail them. By mid-morning, the chieftain, a tall man named Matto, summoned Mara to the central area of the camp. He was flanked by elders and scouts, all observing her with careful eyes. "You have done something few outsiders would even attempt," Matto said, his voice deep and calm. "You risked life and limb to save our children. That courage deserves respect. But bravery alone is not enough in these lands."
Mara nodded. She understood.
Nova Dakota was unforgiving, and the plains had dangers beyond storms. Predators, rogue scavengers, and rival colonies were constant threats. "Tell us," Matto continued, "why you came here. Why leave your own path to face the storm?" Mata met his gaze steadily. "I did not leave my path," she replied. "The storm brought me here. And when I saw the children, I could not turn away. I have survived storms before, and I know what it is to lose those who cannot protect themselves. I am here to help, not to harm." Matto's eyes studied her for a long moment, then softened slightly. "Then you will stay. Tonight the council will decide your place among us, but for now, help with our daily tasks.
Show that your skills can serve the camp.
Mara agreed without hesitation. This was her chance to earn trust, to prove she was more than a stranger who appeared in the storm. Her first task was simple but revealing. The camp's water purification system had been damaged in the storm, and the villagers needed help restoring it. Mara followed a team of engineers to the collection units, massive devices that drew water from deep underground reservoirs and filtered it with energy fields. Using her knowledge from years on frontier colonies, she quickly identified weak points and repaired broken conduits. Her hands moved with precision, and within hours, clean water began flowing again. The camp children cheered as water splashed into basins, and Mara felt a quiet pride. Her skills were useful here. They mattered. Next, Mara joined a scouting party tasked with checking the surrounding plains. The Sioux had detected unusual signals on their sensors, signs of possible intruders or hostile creatures. Riding a hover sled alongside seasoned scouts, Mara marveled at the way the tribe combined technology and tradition. They moved silently, their weapons and tools adapted to the harsh terrain. Every step was calculated, every motion purposeful. She felt herself learning, adjusting to their rhythm. During the scouting, Mara and the children encountered a herd of native sand raptors, small creatures that could blend perfectly with the desert ground. The children froze, but Mara remained calm. She guided them behind rocks, pointing out the creatures' movements and teaching them how to read the plains. The sand raptors moved away without incident, and Mara explained, "Every creature here has its role. Learn their patterns and you can survive." The children listened intently, eyes wide, absorbing every word. Mara realized that this camp was not just a place of safety. It was a school, a community that valued knowledge as much as strength. Back at the camp, Mara's work continued. She helped repair shelters, strengthen the roofs that had been damaged by debris, and teach the children basic survival skills. Her bond with Dakota and Waya deepened. She told them stories of her travels, of distant planets and deserts, but always in ways that were appropriate and inspiring. She wanted them to understand courage, resilience, and the importance of helping others. Slowly, the initial fear in their eyes was replaced with admiration and trust. One evening, as the sun set over the jagged mesas, Mara sat beside the children near the campfire. Shadows stretched along across the plains, and the twin moons began to rise, casting a soft, pale glow. The camp was quiet, but Mara could feel the tension in the air. The storm may have passed, but new dangers were already stirring. Scouts had reported unusual activity on the horizon, faint energy readings that suggested raiders or intruders. Mara knew that life here would never be truly peaceful. Motto approached his step silent on the soft dust. "You have done well today," he said. "But tomorrow we will discuss the future. This land is harsh, and we must prepare for what is coming. Your presence has been a blessing, but even blessings carry responsibility." Mara nodded. She understood the weight of his words. Being part of the camp meant more than survival. It meant protecting, learning, and sometimes fighting. That night, as Mara lay under the protective canopy of a shelter, she thought about the storm, the children, and the path that had brought her here. Each decision, each act of courage, had ripple effects. Saving Dakota and Waya was only the beginning. The camp, the tribe, and the plains themselves would test her in ways she could not yet imagine. But Mara felt ready. She had survived storms before, and she would survive whatever came next. Outside, the wind whispered through the canyons, carrying the scent of distant plains and hidden dangers. Mara closed her eyes, listening, learning. She had come to this land by chance, but she would stay by choice. The children were safe, the camp was beginning to trust her, and the future, though uncertain, held promise. Nova Dakota had tested her, and she had passed. Tomorrow, the council would meet. But tonight, Mara allowed herself a rare moment of peace. The storm had tried to take them, but it had also brought her to the children and to the Sioux camp. And in that union, she felt the first stirrings of a new destiny, a life not just of survival, but of purpose, belonging, and courage. The night was quiet, almost too quiet. The twin moons of Nova Dakota glowed pale and silver, casting long shadows across the jagged mesas and dusty plains. Mara sat near the campfire, sharpening the edge of her survival knife, listening to the soft hum of the camp. The children, Dakota and Waya, slept nearby, their breathing steady and calm for the first time since the storm. The Sioux scouts patrolled the perimeter, moving silently, like shadows themselves. But Mara's instincts told her that the calm was only temporary. Danger was coming. By the time the first stars appeared, the scouts returned with urgent news. Mara met them at the edge of the camp, her gravity harness adjusted and weapons ready. Unidentified hover signatures, one scout said, pointing to a faint cluster of lights on the horizon. They are moving fast, heading toward us. Mara squinted, the moonlight reflecting off her eyes. Raiders, she muttered, or scavengers. Either way, they would stop at nothing to take what the camp had, especially the children, who were rumored to be the future of the tribe's survival programs. Mato, the chieftain, called a council immediately. The elders, scouts, and Mara gathered around the central fire. Maps and energy readings were spread across a portable display. Mara leaned over, tracing the path of the approaching intruders with her finger. They'll arrive in less than an hour, she said. We need a plan that keeps the children safe and forces the raiders into a trap. If we try to fight them head-on, we risk too many lives. One of the scouts, a young man named Hoka, spoke up. We can use the canyon traps, narrow paths, low-gravity fields, and the sand pits. They won't know what hit them. Mara nodded. Exactly. But we need to make sure every child and every non-combatant is hidden. The traps are effective only if the camp is evacuated. She turned to the chieftain. Mato, we can split the camp. I'll lead the children to the safe caves along the ridge while your strongest warriors handle the approach. We need surprise, speed, and precision. Mato studied her for a long moment. Then, with a slow nod, he said, Do as you say. You have earned this trust, Mara. But remember, the raiders are cunning. They will test every weakness. Mara's jaw tightened. Then we'll make sure there are no weaknesses left. The children were quickly roused and guided toward the ridge caves. Mara kept them calm, using soft words and gentle guidance. Stay close to me, she whispered. Don't look around. Focus on my voice. Dakota clutched her arm tightly, while Waya held her hand. As they moved, Mara explained the plan simply, so the children understood their role. They would stay hidden, quiet, and trust her completely. She knew fear could be dangerous, but courage, even in children, could save lives. Meanwhile, the camp's warriors prepared. Mara watched as they set low-gravity traps along narrow canyon paths and positioned energy nets across likely approach routes. Every detail mattered. Mara herself checked the traps, testing the sensors and confirming the timing of the nets. The raiders had advanced tech too, but the Sioux were smarter in their own terrain. Mara realized this was the perfect combination, technology guided by knowledge, courage strengthened by experience. As the raiders' lights grew brighter on the horizon, the tension in the camp became palpable. Mara felt her heartbeat quicken, but her mind stayed clear. She led the children into the first hiding spot, a small cave with a high ledge overlooking the canyon. From there, they could see faint movement in the distance. Mara pointed, whispering, There, stay low. Don't make a sound. The children obeyed, their eyes wide with both fear and fascination. Mara crouched beside them, scanning the horizon, ready for the first strike. The raiders came swiftly, their hover vehicles gliding just above the desert floor, sensors scanning for life. Mara noticed immediately the patterns of their approach. Some hovered too high, exposing themselves to energy nets. Others moved too fast, ignoring the shifting sand traps. Mara signaled to the warriors with subtle hand gestures. The Sioux opened fire from hidden positions, disabling the raiders' communications and engines. Sparks flew, dust kicked up, and the raiders realized too late that they had walked straight into a trap. Mara stayed close to the children, teaching them to remain calm, even as flashes of light and the sounds of battle echoed through the canyon. Breathe slowly, she whispered. Nothing will touch you here. Dakota and Waya followed her instructions perfectly, their trust in Mara complete. Mara felt a surge of pride. The storm had brought them together, and now they were facing danger as a unit, learning bravery through action. Mara took a small hover sled and moved along the edges of the canyon, using her harness to leap across rocks and guide energy pulses into the raiders' remaining vehicles. Her movements were precise, almost effortless. She dodged sparks, debris, and enemy fire, thinking only of the children and the tribe. The Sioux warriors watched in awe as Mara turned the tide, forcing the raiders into narrow canyon traps where they became immobilized. During the fight, Mara discovered something strange about herself. In moments of extreme focus, she felt a heightened awareness, almost a sixth sense for danger. She could predict the raiders' moves before they happened, instinctively avoiding threats and placing herself in positions of advantage. She had never experienced this before, but it gave her a powerful edge. The raiders, despite their technology, were falling one by one to her strategy. By the time the battle ended, the raiders were either captured or fled into the distant plains, leaving their stolen supplies behind. The camp was safe, and the children were unharmed. Mara helped guide them down from the cave, smiling at their relieved faces. Dakota whispered, "You're amazing." Mara chuckled softly, ruffling his hair. "I only did what I had to. You two were brave too." Wea hugged her tightly, and Mara felt a deep sense of belonging. The Sioux gathered afterward, assessing the damage and tending to the wounded. The chieftain Maddo approached Mara, his expression a mix of respect and solemnity. "You have shown courage beyond words," he said. "You are no longer a stranger here. You are part of this tribe. Your actions saved lives tonight. You have proven that trust and courage can overcome even the greatest danger." Mara felt a warmth in her chest she had not felt in years. She had found a place where her skills, her heart, and her courage mattered. As the night deepened, Mara helped fortify the camp further, ensuring that any future threats would face similar obstacles. The children fell asleep again, this time peacefully, knowing that they were truly safe. Mara watched over them, her mind alert, but her heart lighter. The storm had brought her to these plains, and the raiders had tested her, but now she had proven herself. For the first time, Mara allowed herself to imagine a life here, not just surviving from storm to storm, but contributing to a community, protecting those who could not protect themselves, and forging bonds that would last. She had come as a stranger, but she would stay as a protector, a guide, and a friend. Nova Dakota was harsh and unpredictable, but it was also a place where courage and heart could make a real difference. By the firelight, Mara felt a quiet determination settle within her. The storm and the raiders had tested her, but she had survived and thrived. The children were safe, the camp was secure, and her place among the Sioux was no longer in question. She had changed her destiny tonight, proving not only to the tribe but to herself that she was capable of more than survival. She could shape the future of this land and protect those she had grown to care for deeply. As the twin moons climbed higher in the sky, Mara gazed out over the plains, watching the shadows stretch long and silent. The wind whispered softly, carrying the scent of sand and distant rock. The night had been won, but she knew this was only the beginning. Nova Dakota would always test those who lived here. Mara was ready, and for the first time in a long time she felt at home. The first light of dawn crept over the jagged mesas of Nova Dakota, casting long shadows across the plains. The wind had settled, leaving the air clear and still. The twin suns rose slowly, spilling golden amber over the Sioux camp. Mara stood on a plateau overlooking the settlement, her gravity harness adjusted but unused. She breathed deeply, taking in the scent of dust and warm earth, the quiet hum of the camp, and the soft chatter of children already awake and playing near the bioluminescent lanterns. For the first time in many years, Mara felt a calm she could hold on to. The storm had come, the raiders had attacked, and now the camp was safe. She had led the children through danger, taught them courage, and earned the respect of the tribe. But the events of the last days had also changed her. Nova Dakota was no longer just a place of survival. It had become a place of purpose, of belonging. Maddo the chieftain approached quietly, his footsteps soft on the rocky ground. "Mara," he said, his voice calm yet firm, "you have shown bravery, wisdom, and care beyond what we expected. You saved our children, led us through danger, and helped protect the camp. Your place among us is now clear." Mara looked at him, feeling both pride and humility. "Thank you, Maddo," she said. I never thought I would find a home again. But here, I feel like I belong." "Belonging is not given lightly," he said. "It is earned through actions, courage, and heart. You have proven all three. The council has agreed. You may stay as long as you wish, not as a guest, but as a protector, a scout, and a guide. Your role will shape the future of this tribe."
Mara's heart swelled.
She had never expected to find such trust, such acceptance. For the first time, she truly felt at home. The children, Dakota and Waya, ran toward her, their faces bright with excitement. "Mara! Look, I caught a sand raptor!" Dakota shouted, holding up a small, harmless creature that had wandered near the camp. Waya laughed, chasing after it with careful steps. Mara smiled, ruffling their hair. "You two are brave," she said. "But remember, being brave means being careful, too. Strength comes from knowing your limits and trusting others." The children nodded eagerly, hanging on her words. The morning passed in a peaceful rhythm. Mara helped repair shelters and reinforce the camp's defenses, teaching the tribe new strategies she had learned during her travels across distant worlds. The children followed her, eager to help and learn. Mara realized that she was not just a protector, but also a teacher. Every action, every lesson she gave would shape the next generation of Sioux scouts and warriors. Her place in the tribe was more than safety. It was responsibility, purpose, and influence. By midday, the council gathered to discuss the aftermath of the raiders' attack. Mara listened quietly as elders spoke of strategy, resource management, and long-term security. She contributed when appropriate, offering insights from her experience surviving on harsh frontier worlds. Her words were respected, her presence accepted. The tribe no longer saw her as an outsider. She was a part of them, woven into their daily life and future plans. As the sun climbed higher, Mara took a moment to walk toward the edge of the canyon where she had first rescued the children. She gazed down at the rocky floor, recalling the fear, the dust, and the roar of the storm. She remembered how the wind had threatened to take everything from her and the children, how her heart had raced, and how instinct and determination had carried her through. She had faced the storm, faced raiders, and survived. But more importantly, she had changed the lives of 2 children, a tribe, and her own destiny in the process. Dakota and Waya joined her, carrying small satchels of water and food. "We helped," Dakota said proudly. Mara smiled. "You helped more than you know," she said. "Today you learned courage and patience. You learned that even when the storm comes, you can survive if you stay together." Waya looked up at her, eyes bright. "Will there be more storms?" she asked. Mara considered the question carefully. "Yes," she said finally. "There will always be storms. But together we will face them, and we will be stronger for it." That evening, as the camp settled and the sky turned deep indigo, Mara stood with the chieftain atop the main mesa. The twin moons rose slowly, casting silver light over the camp. Fires burned softly below, and the sounds of life, children laughing, adults working, animals moving, filled the air. Mara felt a sense of peace unlike anything she had known in years. "You have found your path," Matto said quietly, standing beside her. "It was not given to you lightly. You have chosen it with courage, heart, and wisdom. The storm brought you here, but your actions have made this your destiny." Mara nodded. "I understand. I've never had a place to call home, but here, I feel it. I will protect this tribe, these children, and this land. As long as I am able, I will be their shield." The chieftain smiled faintly. "Then the tribe is stronger because of you. And the children will remember your bravery, your guidance, and your heart. They will grow with courage, inspired by what you have done." Mara looked down at Dakota and Waya, now sleeping peacefully in the shelter below. She felt a swell of emotion, pride, love, and determination. She had saved them once from the storm, but she knew that her duty was ongoing. Protection, teaching, and guidance were her new life. As night deepened, Mara walked along the edge of the camp, her eyes scanning the plains beyond. Nova Dakota was vast, harsh, and unpredictable. Storms, predators, and raiders would always come, testing the camp and its people. But she no longer felt fear. She felt readiness, determination, and connection. The tribe had accepted her, the children trusted her, and she had proven to herself that she was capable of more than mere survival. She could shape the future of this land. Later, as the fires burned low and the camp fell silent, Mara returned to the plateau where she had begun her journey here. She looked out over the plains, stretching endlessly into the distance, the twin moons casting long, protective shadows. She thought of the storm, the children, the raiders, and the tribe. Each event had led her here, each choice had built her path, and each act of courage had strengthened her resolve. She realized that her destiny was no longer uncertain. She had found purpose, belonging, and strength. Mara sat down, letting the cool night air brush against her face. She allowed herself a rare smile, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. The children were safe, the camp was strong, and she was part of something larger than herself. Nova Dakota had tested her, but she had not only survived. It had made her stronger, wiser, and connected to a community she had grown to love. As she closed her eyes, listening to the soft hum of life below, Mara understood fully. The storm had not only been a threat, it had been a guide. It had brought her to the children, to the Sioux tribe, and to a new life she could call her own. Her journey was far from over, but she was ready for whatever lay ahead. Her path was clear. She was a protector, a guide, and now a part of the tribe's destiny. And for the first time in a long time, Mara felt completely at peace. The storm could come again, raiders could strike again, but she knew she would face every challenge with courage, wisdom, and heart. Nova Dakota had given her a second chance, and she would honor it. Under the twin moons, Mara stood tall, the children sleeping safely nearby, the tribe resting confidently in the camp. The plains stretched endlessly before her, full of danger, beauty, and life. She took a deep breath and whispered to herself, "I am home."